Hello, and welcome back to another Expert VR Friday recap. My name is Evan Sittler Bates, and I will be walking through what is new in virtual reality and related technology and how it affects education. This week is December 16th, 2022. Let's hop right into it. First of all, I wanted to highlight this article that was brought to my attention by our marketing team. Thank you, Carrie. Highlighting here, Dublin schools are trialing VR technology to help with children with autism. And I think this is a really neat use case. Basically, here you can see the student is inside virtual reality and the teacher can see what they are seeing on the iPad. And inside of this simulation, students are learning social skills. So if you read through the article, it basically talks about students being put into a supermarket or a zoo, and they have to go and interact with virtual avatars in that space and interact. And it just gives that kind of socialization skills that might be difficult to work up the courage or confidence to practice in the real world, where you can practice again and again in a safe space in VR. So I think just such a great tool to help those with autism, especially children. Moving along, this article came out from Forbes this week talking about the 5 training priorities for companies to focus on in 2023. And I thought it was very interesting because first of all, it talks about closing the skill gap, and then number 2, making training more relevant. And as I was reading this article, I was like, okay, VR, it bridges that skill gap because it allows people to more quickly learn new skills, as well as for people that have different ways of learning to overcome their skill gap by using virtual reality. And then obviously, number 2 very much falls into virtual reality as well, because the context is very realistic. You can make the content relevant to the people that are going through the training because it's so customizable. So all of these are fitting into virtual reality. And then I kept reading along. Brief is better. Another thing, making sure you just go into the VR, you have your brief experience, and can just go back in to relearn the areas where you need to retrain. And then number 4 was AR and VR. So I was very happy to see that this list here, assessing your tech stack, also kind of falls into VR, AR. Everything kind of here fits into VR. Obviously, there are a lot of extra things if you're considering VR to make sure that your training is brief and to make sure that your training is more relevant and closing that skill gap. But just very happy to see big publications like Forbes recognizing the power of virtual reality for training, as well as recognizing these other areas that, in my opinion, are all supported by virtual reality as well. So just a great list, VR aside, to go through if you're looking at training in your organization or at your school. Lastly, on the VR news here, this article came out from Honda talking about how they're using VR to design cars. So they're using the Vario as the XR3 that they have on here. I'm sure they're also working with other headsets from Vario's lineup, depending on what they need for the designing that they're doing. But one of the main things they talked about in this article is how in past cars that they've built, the person designing the car would design a new design for the full car, or let's say a new design for the interior or the doors or chairs or whatever it may be. And then they would have to either get somebody to come in person and check out that design if it was a large one, or they would have to send over a file and something that the person would then have to download and find the time to go through and really analyze the changes that were made, and maybe not have the complete context on those changes because maybe they're just looking at a door in this like 2D space and they're like, yep, change looks good. They sign off on it. And that could be a couple-day process. What Honda was saying in this article is that now the process is cut down into less than a day, where a designer makes a change, they let their superior, whoever needs to give feedback, know about that change. And then whenever they have free time, they both jump into a VR headset. They're able to walk them through the change. They're able to conceptualize that change in that 3D space. And with a headset like the Vario XR3, they're seeing it in the real world. They're not in a fully virtual world. It's just that design, that product, that car in front of them. So very powerful, speeding up their design process and just their learning process, as well as just making sure that they're conceptualizing everything so there's less mistakes as well. And then lastly, you may have seen some posts, but I wanted to highlight Expert VR. You can see myself over on the left there and Drew in the middle. We were at Tech Beach Retreat in Jamaica last week and last weekend, and highlighting this because being down in Jamaica here, meeting all these amazing Jamaican startups, some of them that we already knew, and others that we were meeting for the first time. There was a lot of interesting things happening in the ed tech space. To note, Smart Term, our friends here, Saf and Io, on the left and right here, they run Smart Term. Um, and it's a really interesting platform that we're looking at integrating with, where it basically brings together all of the different tools that you use as an educational institution. So your LMS system, your like customer service communication type stuff, all kinds of different things that they're bringing together. And it's just very exciting to see that kind of ed tech innovation coming out of the Caribbean, where they're trying to leapfrog us and being like, okay, well, Jamaican or Caribbean education in most parts, from what they've told me, is maybe behind Canadian or North American education. But they're looking at where did we make all the mistakes over the past couple of years, and how can they leapfrog us with these types of innovations. So it's very exciting conversations, and excited to see how we can work with that technology and bring that technology into the education space in Canada. And then on the note of just talking about Jamaica, we took some fun photos. So you'll see these coming out. Me hanging out on the beach in VR. We had Drew chilling with a drink here, I believe. Well, chilling with a drink in VR on the beach. So I had a lot of fun doing some photo shoots as well. But that is your Friday recap, everything that's been happening in the virtual reality space, what we're up to at Expert VR as of late. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next Friday. Peace.